Welcome to the People Connect podcast. Your network is your net worth. Are you ready to take your life to the next level? Be prepared to leap out of your comfort zone and connect with the who's who of what you want to do. Stop, drop, and roll as we start, market, and grow the CEO of you and your host, Nichelle Womack. She will help you engage, reinvent, motivate, and reactivate your plans for success.
Welcome to the People Connect podcast. I am your host, Nichelle Womack, the Startup CEO, helping you to start, market, grow, and profit in your own enterprise as the CEO of you. Helping you to turn that side hustle into your main hustle by providing you with all the information that you need to up-level to your next level. Welcome to another broadcast. We so appreciate you being a part of our audience, and we greatly appreciate all the feedback that we get as well by giving you quality information and bringing you quality guests that can help you get to that next level in your life. So I hope and pray that you are ending 2018 off on a great start. No better time than now to plan, prepare, and execute so that you can start 2019 off on the right start. And I am so excited to bring to you today some financial advice, because financial advice really is helping you to up-level to that next level in any area of your life, whether it's business, life in general. We all need to be in tune with our finances. I have a wonderful guest here. I've done some background check on him, and he has his stuff together. Not only is he credentialed and able to give you this information with clarity and sincerity, because he is a certified financial planner. And that's one thing that I always advise my audience members, business owners, and life members, to let them know that when you want expert advice, it's best to go to an expert, someone who is certified, educated in the area that you have a deficiency in. Why? Because that person is skilled, for the most part, skilled and credentialed to be able to help you get out of the rut, to help you change your situation, to help you put a plan together so you can move forward in your destination. Today, my guest, my sponsor for the People Connect podcast is Mr. William Rassman. He's a certified financial planner, as I mentioned. He's a speaker. He's an author. He's a professional and financial service advisor for successful individuals and families. The family is better when we're educated. Knowledge is power, but it's only power if you use it to your advantage. He uses proprietary tools and strategies at Centric Capital Advisors, where he replaces old school asset allocation with strategy allocation. Now, we talk about strategy all the time, and along with cutting edge tax strategies. This is one thing I want to talk about real quick here before we get into our guests. You can save so much money just by adjusting your tax information, and a lot of people don't know that. We pay more in taxes than we actually should. And if we look at what the rich and the wealthy do, and I'm sure my guest is going to get into this, the rich and the wealthy do, they save money by utilizing the tax system to their advantage. And so if you help, he also helps protect clients, their assets, and grow their money. Grow. I love that. That's part of our platform, to start, market, and grow and profit their money regardless of market direction. So I'm really excited to welcome Mr. William Rassman, a certified financial planner, to our audience. Welcome, sir, to the People Connect podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. That was a fantastic introduction. Can I hire you to do all of my marketing? Really, that was great. I've been doing a lot of these lately, and that was actually the best that I've heard so far. So give yourself a pat on the back for that one.
Oh, thank you so much.
But I guess it makes sense, because this is you are People Connect podcast, so you're helping people really distill what is helping them inspire, engage, and transform the world around them, right? So all of that. You are an expert in yourself, given that you're able to do that for other people. That's what it's all about, in my opinion.
Right. Correct. And you're right. We all have expertise in something. I'm one of those kind of people. I believe in staying in my own lane, but I also believe in inquiring about other lanes too, because we can all do different things to help get better in what it is that we do. So I'm not a financial expert, not certified or even educated. I have an MBA degree and a BA degree, and took accounting, and that's the furthest that I went.
That's probably more than most, Michelle. I think you should. You should give yourself credit there.
Yeah, thank you so much, and you as well, because I think getting finances are not easy, and so if you could get certified in it, and then you can help educate other people how to make money, save money, and invest in money, I think that's so key. And I see your 10 years of experience. You started in May 2008. Kind of give us a synopsis of, first of all, what brought you to this industry of certified financial planning, and then give us some directions and some pathway where we can go to start getting better in our finances for the new year.
Sure. So I started in the industry in, like as you said, May of 2008. I've always had, as I talk about in my book, I've always had a bit of a financial background per se. My dad is a marketing guy for banks and credit unions, and at the end of the day, marketing, banks, and credit unions is all about figuring out why people put money where they put it, right? Why do you trust Chase over Bank of America? And so I know I kind of grew up with that around me, and by the time I got to college, I knew that I wanted to go into economics, and I did kind of like all my hardcore economics courses in like my freshman year, just because I really knew that that's what I wanted to do. And then I ended up having to do all my general ed my senior year, which was like the opposite. But so that said, because of how everything worked out, I was going to school in New York City at Wagner College, which is on Staten Island, and I would take the ferry over into the financial district, and I interned on Wall Street in May of 2008, and that's how I started. And I fell in love with the industry right away. I think that there's a lot of tangible and intangible upsides to helping people grow and transform and protect their life's work, and so that's how I started. In 2010, I moved out to Los Angeles. I was working at Merrill Lynch, and I bounced around a couple of the big banks. I worked at Deutsche Bank, and I've traded offshore securities and options and forex and all sorts of stuff. So I have a broad big bank experience, and I went independent in 2015 and started the company that I have now, Centric Capital Advisors. We are a boutique financial planning firm, and I think that one of the best things that I can let people in on as far as is taking the next right action with their finances is figure out what you're aiming at, because it's difficult to move forward when you don't know what direction to go in. So one of the things that I do with clients first, it's the first part of my consultative process, is we go through what's called the discovery meeting. So it's 90 minutes and it's like 65 questions, and I call it financial therapy. So let's talk about all your thoughts and your feelings about all of the financial baggage that you might be carrying. And so we talk about values and interests and goals and assets and relationships. And what we're doing is we're distilling everything down to see, what is the quantitative stuff? What is the stuff that we can measure moving forward for you, and help maybe move you through some of the emotional parts of what you might have around money. And I think that for most folks, they could, if they really did an honest inventory of their financial household and their feelings and goals around it, that's a great starting point, in my opinion.
You mentioned a great point here that I just want to emphasize: financial baggage. I speak with so many people who are afraid to talk about money. And I do a little relationship consulting as well. And that's one thing I always mention to new couples when they're getting married or thinking about marriage is to talk about finances, because finances literally is the number one destruction of marriage. And I like how you put it in talking about things, your relationship with money and all of that, because that really frightens people. People don't like to talk about their finances because either they feel it holds them back or they don't make enough and things of that nature. So I really like how you put that into your business perspective.
Yeah. So I just got married 3 months ago, and
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, and so I've been, as we've been combining our financial household, I actually wrote an article for Kiplinger about this, about how it's the newlywed kind of situation is interesting because we're getting married later in life now, so you actually have assets to actually combine. When you're getting married in your early 20s, it's like, well, what do you have? But I'm 32 and my wife is a little bit older than I am, and so we actually have stuff, right? And so we're combining bank accounts and doing all that, and we found that by sitting down once a week and having a 30-minute money meeting, we kind of talk through kind of what's going on, and then that's it. Then we don't have to talk about money for the rest of the week. We can kind of do our thing, right? And by focusing in on those 30 minutes, we're able to kind of flow out our week, and how much do we need to spend on dining out, because what dinners do we have coming up, and what kind of money do we need for groceries, and our car payment's coming up, and it's the first of the month, so rent is due. And it's like I think there's a lot of power in just getting a handle on that. And I think that speaks to kind of what my book is about, which is taking on financial responsibility willingly, because too often, as you said, we feel some sort of shame or just kind of stepping away from it as if we just can't deal with it. It's like it's not going to get any better, especially if you don't do anything about it. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So the title of my book, Atlas Shift, Atlas was the Greek mythological titan who was assigned the responsibility of holding up the sky so it doesn't come crashing down on Earth. And it's like that, to me, that's a good metaphor of responsibility for taking care of your finances, because if you don't take inventory, it's possible that the sky could come crashing down on you. And so Atlas Shift is, in my opinion, is taking the responsibility part of our financial household, right? Because it seems as if the bureaucratic, governmental and corporate kind of safety nets are disappearing, right? Social Security is supposed to run out in like 2034. There's no such thing as pensions anymore.
Right.
You can't get, employers are matching less and less on 401ks. It's like you have to take responsibility for your current financial life and your future financial life, because you are the only one that is going to truly take care of it. It's like one of my favorite, I can't remember where I got this from, but one of my favorite quotes that I've heard is, the best financial plan is to not be a burden on others.
Ooh.
It's like, damn.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. And that's really true if you think about it, William, because, see, we as people, we become so comfortable with corporate taking care of us. And as you just mentioned, the shift, I like that. And you can get William's book at Atlas and learn more about him, too, at Atlas, ATLAS SHIFT.com, Atlas-Shift.com, and you can learn more about his book, about him, and what he does to help you up-level your life and your finances. A couple of things that you mentioned that really triggered me are money meetings. That's something we don't have enough of. I like that you and your wife sit down. I'm assuming you don't have kids. Am I correct?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. You're doing that financial planning before. So, I mean, that's a good stepping ladder for that. And then another thing, I want you to kind of discuss budgeting too, because see, budgeting is some quote unquote a bad word too. And you know, no, I don't like budgets per se. I really like to, I know this may be bad coming from a financial perspective, and you can tap me on the hand here, but I like to live above my means because that gives me encouragement to go out and do more and make more. But I'm realistic of what my budget is too. And I know people don't have that flexibility, but, that's where you go into creating additional streams of income so you can live a life debt-free and do the things that you enjoy. So can you speak to us about how you will put the perception or the concept of budgeting into a family's life?
Sure. So I probably agree with you more than I disagree with you, and here's why. So in the last part of my book, I talk about how money is energy, right? That's all it is. People look at it. People like to anthropomorphize money as like this thing that like is out there, and it either is not good to them or it is good to them. And it's like, no, money's energy, and it's going to flow to you, and it's going to flow from you, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And I argue what we should do is we should allow that to happen by design rather than by default, because you have a choice there. You don't have a choice whether or not it's going to flow to you or from you, but you have a choice on whether you can design that process or whether you can let the process happen by default. And so the way that I look at budgeting, I really don't like that term because it feels constrictive, right? We live in an abundant universe. You have the ability, especially in this country, to really go and make as many streams of income as your heart desires, as long as you're willing to put in the effort. Yeah. Right? So I believe that budgeting is kind of an oldish term. I like to look at it as spending. What are we spending on? Right? So what we do, my wife and I, and this is part of our money meeting, is it's very simple. You can do it by hand or you can do it on Excel. Is you take one column and you put all of the money that's coming in for the rest of the month. You take another column and you take a good inventory of where do you think all the money is going to go for the rest of the month. And then for each day throughout the month, you just take the previous day's balance plus money coming in minus going out, and then you can see where you think the next day's balance will be. And then you can watch that balance dwindle down to, sometimes zero, sometimes negative, or sometimes you have a surplus. And I think just that awareness, because I think to your point about being able to go out and live in abundance is so important, because we get what we focus on, right? So if you run around all day looking at all of the things that are wrong with your situation and the lack that you live in, it's like, well, that's what you're going to get. So that's why we only do, I plan on, after we kind of get our marriage rhythm going, that we'll do money meetings, maybe once a month or once a quarter, because sometimes those meetings will bring up feelings of lack, and but that's okay as long as you don't bring that out into the rest of the week, right? It's like you deal with it at that point, and then you get into gratitude, because at the end of the day we are okay, right? It's like I talk about in my book that the level of wealth that we live with, just in general, is, our ancestors would absolutely flip. The fact that that you can turn on a light switch and that it works pretty much every single time is like crazy, right? Like, and then when it doesn't work, we're like, well, what the hell? Like, is there something wrong with the wiring, or like, is the light bulb out? And it's like, usually, the light bulb's out. So I haven't changed the light bulb in 5 years. It's like, that's some like, very 2018 problems, right? And the fact that we have an infrastructure built out for us so that we can go and we have the opportunity is really important. I mean, since 1990, the average world income has doubled. Since 1990, 1 billion people no longer live in hunger. It's like, that's huge stuff. The pace of human progress is astounding. And if you can't find a little bit of gratitude in that, then I don't know, maybe it's time to move somewhere where it's easier to find gratitude, because it's really, I believe being able to wake up every day and live in that gratitude is the foundation of living in the mindset of abundance, and then going to the place where you can start to design how money flows to you and how it flows from you.
Oh, William, we're on the same page there. And gratitude. I speak about that a lot as well when we're talking about how we want to live. Mindset is everything. And lack is a position. Poverty is a position. You can get out of those situations. You don't have to live there. You choose to live where you desire and where your mind keeps you. So I want to just kind of throw in a little biblical verse. People always throw this in people's face when they're talking about money. For the love of money is the root of all evil. And that's one thing that we have been construed against, that money is evil. And it seems like people with the poverty mindset, they believe that more than anything. People with a blessed, abundant mindset believe that money is a tool, that is something that you can utilize to enhance your life and the lives of others. So I like how you portray and put that into the characteristic of, if your lack keeps you there, then that's where you will stay. But if you think about how money can use you and put you where you need to be, then it changes the whole perspective of it.
Absolutely. There's so much evidence of this throughout history that I find it interesting when people try and make a case against it. Matthew 25:29 says, "For everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance, and from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away." Yeah. It's like it is in your very foremost advantage to come from a mindset of abundance. I mean, it's all over the place. And I think that it's important to, as people would kind of like want to push it away, I think it's important to keep bringing up that message, because in today's world of 24/7 news and focusing on the headlines, it's very easy to look at the things that are so very wrong. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't. We definitely should. But why don't we also look at the things that are going so very right? And it seems as if, especially yourself, you come from that place of balance. Like when you were talking about how you like to spend your money because you like to go out and it feeds your hunger to go out and make more. It's like that. To me, that's not a sentence of frivolous spending. You are telling everybody that you live in faith. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And that's huge. Living in faith means that you have a gratitude, that you have a gratitude of where you are, in that you can get to where you want to go. That's really big.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So let's talk about investments a little bit here.
Sure.
Now, we know the stock market has been doing some crazy things over the last couple of months. and it's going up and down, and that's kind of normal. A seasoned investor knows that the market is going to be volatile at some point. So investment benchmarks, what would you recommend for someone who, quote unquote, is on minimum wage, the middle income bracket, to get more confident in going out there and investing money? What strategy would you give our listeners for that?
That's a good question. So I'm actually putting together a program to help folks like that. It's called Young Atlas. It's all part of my Atlas package of stuff that I'm doing right now. That's at youngatlas.com. I think my developers might be working on the website at the moment, but there definitely is a social media presence for that. And what I plan on doing within the next couple of months or so is giving people a foundation to start doing that with some kind of artificial intelligence-based algorithmic planning. So it's go through and answer 50 questions about kind of where you are, and it'll spit back the hierarchy of things that you should probably focus on. And it's all based upon ratios, right? So if your debt to income ratio is too much, then it's like, well, let's try and lower that. And here's some ideas on how to. And if your savings to income ratio is too low, then let's figure out that. Or if you if you don't have any investments or you aren't saving, let's try and figure out how to fix that. And then when after you kind of lay those building blocks, then you can get to the point where, okay, I have $10,000 up and left in savings, and maybe I need 5 of that for my emergency fund, so I'm going to let that sit there. But the other 5 I can put into the market, right? So I would say it really depends on how often you want to be willing to kind of change things around. But I think that a set it and forget it strategy might not be the best for the medium to long term folks. So I think that index funds, ETFs right now are as long as they're in the stock side of things, I think that ETFs for bonds are really not as safe as people think they are. But just investing in SPY, which is the S&P 500, for the foundation is a good start, and then you can build on strategies from that. So kind of in your introduction, you talked about how I'm moving kind of the needle from, at least for my clients, from asset allocation to strategy allocation. And what I've come to find is that through the experience that I have is that too many times advisors are telling people that asset allocation is the best way to get from point A to point B. And they do that by, let's talk about your risk tolerance, how aggressive can you be, and then based upon that, we're going to say, okay, you can do 80% stocks and 20% bonds, or 20% stocks and 80% bonds, or whatever that is, and then you just kind of have to take what the market gives you thereafter. And to me, that feels very passive. And if passive doesn't work in your relationships or your business or anything else, or raising your kids, why should passive work for investing? So I argue that after you get to probably about $50,000 of investable assets or so, it's time to start getting a little bit more active with what you have. And I outline some strategies in my book about how you can use things like momentum and in alternative strategies to help kind of hedge against some of the volatility, especially the type that we're seeing right now, which is a very range-bound type of volatility, right? It's like it's not rolling all the way over, but it doesn't feel comfortable, right? And I had a day on actually Wednesday and Friday for for me were actually very good because my overall allocations for my folks were up when the market was down, and that's just a testament to the strategies that I have in place that are saying, okay, because volatility is a little bit more prevalent now, that we're going to take some cash off the table, or we're going to take some risk off the table and put it into cash. Sorry, and that would probably take a longer time to get into. It's a little bit more complicated, but there is certain ways that you can go and take an active approach to your investment strategies. And if anyone tells you that you just have to take what the market gives you, I would reject that stance and keep searching.
Correct. I totally agree, because one thing that I always stress about diversity in income investment, one of my businesses is real estate, and I personally believe real estate is kind of safe, compared if I'm not a certified financial planner or investment strategist, but I've seen growth in it over the time. And when I'm consulting my clients and they tell me that they want to diversify their income, we put together strategies for real estate investment. And I like to share with them that I personally believe in residual and passive income, because when one fails, another one always comes through. And that's just been some of the benchmarks that I've used in my businesses over the years and in my life and my strategy. Not all of them have been successful, but that's part of being in business. You fail and you learn.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think that real estate can be a good way to create wealth, right? I'm not necessarily convinced that it is a way to necessarily protect wealth, and that is because you leave yourself open to what the real estate market does, right? Sure. So what I usually tell people is, okay, you have your real estate, great. Keep doing that, because you've learned things along the way, and you've had experiences, and you've had wins and losses, and that's all good, and you've gained a set of expertise from that that we don't want to just throw out the window. So let's keep doing that, but let's also find some other ways to diversify some of that growth, and in some ways to mitigate some of the overall market risk that you're taking on, right? So, so one of the ways that I help people do that is through the tax strategy that you mentioned in the opening, which is if someone has a highly appreciated piece of property, or any asset for that matter, I can help them defer all of the capital gain on that, and then create a stream of income from that, so that we can take some real estate risk off of the table and create income via market investments. And that helps diversify out away from real estate, and then also allows you to keep going with the other pieces of real estate that you have. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does. Again, diversity is so key, and having your knowledge and your expertise, you can help clients to get to whatever financial hierarchy they hope to do. In another thing that we do, part of my business is I'm a lifestyle strategist as well as a business consultant, and I work with a lot of successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and people of that sort that, or some of them work jobs, some of them are independent and looking to, do some things to make sure that they don't have to go back to that 9-to-5. I guess I would say that. What tips or strategies would you give to an entrepreneur that's trying to leave their 9-to-5, and then one that's already in the position of total self-employment to continue to persevere in their finances?
It's a great question. I think it's all about the short to intermediate term emergency fund that you set up for yourself. So what I would do is take your current lifestyle, put it all down on paper and say, if things go south, here are all the things that I have to do, that I have to pay, right? Like those are going to be like your food and shelter and probably the minimums on any debt that you have outstanding and stuff like that. So I would get that number and find a monthly number, whether it's 5,000 or 8,000 or 2,000 or whatever it is, and then say, if things were to go south, how long would I need in order to turn things back around, right? So I believe that, as able-bodied, people of today's society, we can turn things around fairly quickly, right? Within 3 to 6 months. But maybe you want to give yourself more than that. So from there, it's just a simple arithmetic problem. It's okay. If things were to go south, you would need $5,000 a month, and you want to give yourself 6 months in order to be able to do that. Then save up $30,000. Get there as quickly as you can. Put that money aside, and then go and do your thing. Because knowing that you've done the work, you've done the planning in order to make sure that you're going to be okay and your family's going to be okay and anyone that you care about is going to be okay. That's what I advise. I have a lot of small business owner, entrepreneurial clients, and it's like it's almost sometimes they're so confident in what they're doing, it's kind of tough to get them to think about the other side of it, because they are the people, like we talked about earlier, that are always living in gratitude, and they're looking for the next opportunity. And it's like, well, as much as you don't want to, sometimes you have to look at the side of life where maybe things just don't work out, and project that out so that you can be ready for something like that. Sure. And for those types so for some of us, that's super easy to do, right? We can go down that path real quick. But I found that the entrepreneurial types, the people that are really living in their day-to-day business, it's difficult to get them to do that. They're like, well, there's no way that would happen. It's like, well, okay, even though you say there's no way that could happen, let's just say that it could, and then let's figure out what you would need if it did. And I think that gives you a sense of power moving forward, knowing that you've done the planning. Put it that way.
Okay. Sounds great. Again, today's sponsor for the People Connect podcast is Mr. William Rassman. He's a certified financial planner, with Centric Capital Advisors. You can learn more about him and his book. I highly advise you to get his book. If you're looking for a shift in 2019, you can go to Atlas, and that's ATLAS -shift.com. And I will also have his information in our show notes. You really want to make certain that for the year 2019 that you stay focused on what it is, your goals, your objectives. I've never been one for New Year's resolutions. I always make goals and commitments because I think those are a little bit more reassuring than saying you got a resolution, because people don't ever come through with their resolutions. Most people don't. If you do, good for you. But what I find in speaking with people, most of them never, they actually succumb to their resolutions and give up before they even get started. So you want to make sure that you're on top of your finances, and I highly suggest you reach out to William with his company, Centric Capital Advisors. He is the sponsor for our broadcast today, and he has a wealth of information and knowledge to share with you, your families. Do you do presentations online or anything, William?
Yeah, I've been. I'm going to start gearing that up. I'll probably do something with the Young Atlas /Atlas Shift brand. I'm really focusing right now on kind of spreading the word via podcast, and in the Los Angeles area, I'm doing some talks, chambers of commerce and stuff like that, and then getting a I'm thinking a WebEx type of workshop around Atlas Shift. I think is probably how this will end up. So just keep an eye on Atlas Shift. That'll probably be it's in the works. I'm a little. I think I'm a little. I might be considered a little bit premature with this, and that my book is only available for pre-order right now. The published date is early January 4th, and then after the new year, I'll probably start to continue to kind of build out all of the messages in education that I want to bring to folks through Atlas Shift.
Well, I think you're on the right path. I mean, first of all, I want to give you kudos to working in corporate America, number one, getting all the experience that you've gotten, getting certified, and then going out there to start your own business, and then, really encouraging the young, because, see, money management really isn't taught in schools, nor is it typically taught in the home. So I think the more that we learn, the more we grow, and the more we can get in tune to the abundance that is available to us. And a lot of that, we can learn from other people, such as yourself, being certified and achieved in that area.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. I think that I actually did have a little bit of a course like this in high school, but I know that, or a course that touched upon, kind of like the basics of money management. But I found it interesting that there was no course like that in college, and I think that there is an issue with financial literacy that we should look to start to tackle, because I think just the debt issue alone is to epidemic proportions. So, I hope that we can keep the conversation moving with all of the different tools and tips and tricks in education around keeping your financial house in order, because it's so vitally important. I mean, I believe it's just as important as your mental health and your physical health and your spiritual health and all of the rest of it. It all works in unison, and
Right.
so don't neglect it.
Yes, it's a synergistic effect. One affects the other, and we all know when one health ailment starts, another one pops up later. So, especially if you don't keep hold of it, and that's the way in finances. You get in debt one time, you're trying to figure out how to get out of it, and all of that. So, what kind of advice, if you had one thing to share with our audience moving forward in 2019, I know you're just getting things started, your book launch and all of that, but now is the perfect time to start doing that, because you want to make sure that people are aware what's getting ready to happen. Because I truly believe with your book, Atlas Shift, that you're going to make some shift in this economy and in the minds of others. So what would you recommend for people starting off the year? I know you gave some tips early on, but can you give us 5 tips that people need to do right now to prepare for 2019?
I could probably give you more than 5, but I'll try and get as succinct as I can with the 5. So I believe the first would be to take inventory, which we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, which is figure out what you're aiming at, because a lot of this financial responsibility stuff is kind of daunting if you don't really put a measuring stick out there for you and some goals, and make some of them fun. It doesn't all have to be all super serious. I'm going to be debt free by December 2020. It's like it can be, throw some fun in there, throw some travel. We're not meant to, I don't think we're meant to be only working individuals, right? I think that we lose some of that kind of that joy of life coming out of, like, we have it when we're children, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So work towards finding that, because as we said earlier, the all of the different aspects of life are connected, right? It's kind of like that thing that you put above a baby's crib. I think it's called a mobile. So you knock one of them, and the rest of them just go crazy. It's like that's the way that life works. So if everything is spinning around, in its own way, then everything's good, and you don't want to knock one off because the rest of it gets all knocked off. And I think that's the right way to look at your financial health. The next one would be to find somebody to that you can find consult in. What I mean by that is it's not saying, go and hire the first person that you find for financial advice, but find somebody to have your back. As you said at the top of the podcast, preferably somebody that has a bit of experience with stuff. And it probably shouldn't be, parents or somebody like that, because it seems like the kind of the power grab that happens between kids and their parents just doesn't seem to work out in a positive way many times, and it just doesn't need to be there. I mean, there's enough people out there that to be willing to kind of help, and so I would say make sure this person, whether it's a financial advisor or maybe somebody that that is just really good with their money, or whoever it might be, make sure they're set up to help you manage your financial picture for the long term, and that if you're paying them, that you're comfortable with how you're paying them, and making sure that there aren't conflicts of interest or glaring conflicts of interest. Let's see. Number 3 would be try to look outside of traditional financial strategies and find something that feels and acts a little bit more new. So if you were to ask, say you're interviewing advisors to help you out, and you ask the question, what do you offer outside of traditional asset allocation to mitigate risk for your clients? And if they don't have a good answer for that, I would move on to the next one, because I think that if you have anything worth protecting in this current market, you need a robust enough investment strategy to protect what you have, and there are some very accessible ways to do that in today's world. The other one would be to make sure that you have a good what I call strategic alliance team, but the other folks that, aside from an advisor, that could make sure that the other auxiliary parts of your financial household are being taken care of, like a CPA and maybe an attorney and somebody to help you out with some insurance, and that's all very important to make sure that you're taking care of your liability and making sure that your assets are structured in a way that isn't leaving you open to a whole bunch of risk. And the last one would be to watch your behavior when it comes to fear and greed. Like it's very difficult to be your own arbiter of fear and greed, because we're we're inherently either too far on one end of the spectrum or too far on the other. And having somebody to help coach you through that is really, really important. Our brains are really not that great at resisting temptation. And so we're the part of making good money decisions, which has to do with staying in the middle of the fear and greed spectrum, is so important. And it's not just as easy as saying, okay, we're going to address a bias. It's like we need to make sure that we turn off our natural bias so that we're not so counterproductive that we're self-defeating, self-sabotaging. Let's stay in the middle of fear and greed.
I like that, William. You gave some amazing tips to get people focused, to help them think. And I think, if they get your book, which they should, I'm recommending it, and you can go to atlas-shift.com and get the book. It is available in January, you said?
It's available for pre-order. So it's available for pre-order right now. Yep, and it should be done by January 4th. Yep.
And what I'm hearing from you, if all of this is in the book, I think you're going to really change some lives, William, because a lot of what you spoke about are really a lot of the principles that I teach all the time to my audience. And whether it's on my social media feed, whether it's speaking with my students that I teach in the classroom, whether it's in day-to-day conversation with myself and my family. I think the more conversations we have about money, and money starts with your thoughts. Mindset is everything, as I say all the time. And if you go get this book, atlas-shift.com, available in January, I promise you, from everything that William has shared with you today, if you are not changed by the thought of what your money can do for you, then we probably need to talk a little bit deeper. You need to get on and call William and try to get your financial life in order. When your financial life is in order, your life is in order, because everything, as William mentioned earlier, is entangled together, and one cannot succeed without the other. So I want you to succeed. William wants you to succeed, and you should want to succeed yourself. William, how can they get in touch with you outside of this podcast?
So I'm all over the social media stuff. Atlas Shift has a presence on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and that's probably the best way to kind of keep up with what I'm doing now, because I'm constantly updating all of that. But if you log on to any of those, you'll get to my personal stuff probably pretty easily, because I've connected it all. So, and then going to my company's website, which is Centric Capital Advisors, centriccapitaladvisors.com, is a good way to get in touch with us that way. And I have a great team of people that I work with over there that help me out with all of the myriad of stuff that I'm doing and keep me organized, and it's a lot of fun right now. It's exciting times, and I really enjoy speaking with like-minded people, and it seems like we have very similar outlooks on many of these very important topics that we're talking about. So thank you so much, Nichelle.
No problem. Yes, we do. I mean, because I sense kindred spirit, and I'm not a religious person, but I'm very spiritual, and I know that when two people come together and there's an agreement that things happen, that's part of my belief system, something I've incorporated in my whole life, and I like to be connected with like minds too, because see, one thing that people need to realize is that you are who you hang around with. Jim Rohn is one of my greatest inspiration as far as quotes and mythology of way of doing business in some aspects, and he states that you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang around. So my philosophy is if you hang around those 5 broke people, you're going to have that broke mindset, you're going to have that poverty pocket, and you're not going to achieve much. But if you hang around 5 people, and not even just 5 people, 2, 3, 4, 5 people or whatever, your mindset shifts amongst the people that you influence yourself with and connect with. So,
absolutely.
I greatly appreciate you taking the time to reach out to become a sponsor for the People Connect podcast. We greatly appreciate your wisdom and your information that you have. Again, please go to his company website. Sounds like that's really great, too, to get you some help to start at centriccapitaladvisors.com.
Yep.
And atlas-shift.com to get this book when it comes out. You are going to be amazed. If you like what you heard today, you know the book is going to have that as well. So please reach out to William for that. Is there anything else that you'd like us to know before we depart for today?
I think that one of the most important things that I've learned from doing tons of podcasts and working with all sorts of different people from different walks of life through the past, really just since I first started in my professional life, but especially in the past 3 or 4 years as I've gone independent and kind of expanded, is that we are more alike than we are different. Way more. And there are tons and tons of good people out there. And remember that this is a friendly universe, and there's a reason why people are magnetic with each other, and it's because we're meant to do good things with and for each other, and that's the message I'd like to end on.
Amazing message, William. I so appreciate all that you have given my audience today, and I'm sure they appreciate it as well. Thanks again for being here, and I hope we can stay connected.
Absolutely.
At the People Connect podcast, we again like to share information to help you start, market, grow, and profit in your life, in your business, and anything that you're involved in. We believe in a progressive life, an abundant life, a life of you moving and achieving and doing some things. Don't talk about it, be about it. That's really the focus that I want to leave you today. You can catch this at the People Connect podcast. You can go to iTunes to download this. You can also go to the website bit.ly/People Connect podcast. You can go to my Instagram feed at Nichelle Womack. I have several feeds of Instagram, but that's one that I talk about business on majority of the time, so that you can pick up this podcast information as well. So again, thank you so much. This is 2018. Today's 12/8/2018. I hope this has inspired you, moved you, and shaken you and given you a shift in your life to move forward and upward to where God has for you to be. Mr. William Rassman, Certified Financial Planner. Again, go to atlas-shift.com. Also check out his website for his company, centriccapitaladvisors.com, and get your money matters in order. This is Nichelle Womack, your host for the People Connect podcast, signing off for now. Make it a great, powerful, blessed, and profitable day. Take care. Bye-bye.